Good morning. My name is Brad Miller. I'm the Pinal County Attorney. Today I'm here to announce a strategic partnership with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Authorities through their 287G enforcement program. Members of my office have gone through the certification requirements, and we are now acting in direct partnership to protect Pinal County. Evil exists in this world, and it manifests itself through human trafficking, drug trafficking, domestic violence, and crimes against children. This office will do everything in its power to protect this community from these predators. Recently, my office indicted an illegal immigrant named Ishmael Ortega Hernandez for the murder of his girlfriend in front of her 2 children. He sought refuge in a sanctuary city because politicians like Representatives Grijalva and Ansari have made people believe that they are safe in those cities. I'm here to let you know that they are not. There are no sanctuary cities in Arizona. With this partnership, if you commit a crime in Pinal County, we will hunt you down no matter where you go and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. Human smuggling is an evil, and we will not only prosecute those who participate in such activities, but my office is also planning to pursue legislation to call it what it is. It's modern-day slavery. Working with ICE to end these crimes is the goal. But there are those out there, including those in power, who seek to stop the good work that our law enforcement officers are doing. There are some Arizona politicians willing to lie to you in order to get additional social media attention, as we saw this past week with Representative Grijalva. Now, she was caught in a lie. She had her own Jussie Smollett moment. She had to manufacture outrage where none exists because they know, and she knows, that Arizonans are not on her side. It is unfortunate that these politicians have chosen to create dangerous situations for our law enforcement officers, to boost their own profiles, and unfortunately, mainly to raise campaign dollars. To be clear, being in the country illegally is a crime and has been the state of the law for over 100 years. We in Pinal County back the blue, and assaulting an officer here will land you in jail or in prison where you belong. There is no special treatment for elected officials. Here the law will be applied equally and fairly. To say it again, assaulting a police officer is a crime, and the law will be enforced in Pinal County, and you will be arrested. Now, I want to close with this. Keeping our communities safe has to include every resource at our disposal, and we plan to use every single one available. This strategic partnership with ICE is a force multiplier for my office, and we look forward to getting more criminals off the street to keep our community safe. Thank you very much, and I invite any questions.
Can
Yes.
you just kind of lay out in practice how this is going to work?
Yeah, so basically what the program is called the 287G. There's 2 types of programs. One is the jail program and one is an enforcement program. I know our Pinal County Sheriff's Office and many of the sheriff's offices and agencies throughout Arizona participate in the jail program. They're not involved in the enforcement program. But my office has signed on to that enforcement program because it gives us some additional resources. So if for some reason we have somebody in our custody, we participate in a task force, and somebody's in the country illegally, we can now get access to the databases and resources that we need to not only check their status and potentially give them over to ICE to deport them, but allows my office to potentially prosecute those individuals for human smuggling. Any other questions? I saw one over here. Yes, sir.
These vehicles we see here, are these now part of Pinal County for your service use?
No, but we will be receiving additional resources from ICE in order to get vehicles. These are ICE vehicles of the gentlemen that are to my left and to my right. Yep. Yes, sir.
Thank you. What do you say to those who say local and state law enforcement kind of infringing on federal law enforcement here with this step? How do you respond to that?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's disappointing that certain agencies and certain people are looking down on enforcing immigration law. The way I look at it is immigration law is tied up, and as I mentioned in my speech, you see a lot of other crimes spring from immigration-related crimes, including human smuggling, which again I call modern-day slavery, drug trafficking, human trafficking, crimes against children, and domestic violence. It seems to be the precursor to a lot of these other crimes. Just the way marijuana has become a precursor to fentanyl use, cocaine, and methamphetamines. So I think it's unfortunate that people want to say that we should enforce some crimes and not enforce others. The way I look at it is they're all tied together. And so my office plans on enforcing both. We plan on getting the additional resources from the federal government to enforce both, and that's going to be our intention. Because our ultimate goal, I think, is still the same, and that's to protect our communities. And by enforcing all of the law, I think we better protect our community. What other questions? Yes, sir.
So talking about traffic stops on I-10,
Yep.
by Pinal County Sheriff's Office.
Yep.
Sometimes these result in handoffs of 10.
They do.
Do you know at this point how many of those stops have resulted in handoffs?
I can't name the exact numbers, but I know the last operation by the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, I believe, resulted in well over 100 different stops. I don't know how many of those individuals were handed over to ICE, but I can get you that information at a later point. But also to emphasize, because we've signed onto this agreement and are now actively working with ICE, there will be many more of those, and we intend to continue those. But we will also put out the statistics about what we find and who we find. So you'll be getting more information from my office soon.
And how confident are you that these kind of freeway stops are legal?
Well, we know 100% that they're legal because we follow through our process. When we receive a case from a sheriff's office or from any of our agencies, we don't just immediately charge all of those cases. That's why we have a backstop. We have a couple of those. My office looks at those, and we have a very high and exacting standard about what cases we actually charge. And that standard is the reasonable likelihood of conviction. We don't just look at the probable cause standard, which is your basic standard to conduct a vehicle stop. We have to ensure that we're actually going to get a prosecution at a jury trial. So that's one of the backstops. The second backstop to ensure that due process is followed through is we also have a grand jury. The reason why we have a grand jury is we have people from our community coming in here and examining what my office is doing on a daily basis to make sure that we are following through on people's due process rights, that we are doing things correctly. And that grand jury sometimes tells us no, and we appreciate that. We're glad that they're in that particular position, and that's what they do. So we are not violating anybody's constitutional rights, due process rights, because we have multiple ways to ensure that we're complying with the law.
Does it matter that their due process rights are being violated if they're being pulled over and turned over to ICE almost immediately? They don't even go through the county court system?
Yeah, we often do joint training with our law enforcement agencies, and oftentimes my office, since we're the county attorney's office, conducts training. And our basic training talks about what the standards are for a traffic stop. And we expect our law enforcement agencies, and our law enforcement agencies also respect people's rights. We're not just pulling people over willy-nilly. We're making sure that we're doing things correctly, we're following the law. Because if we're not following the law, then who will be? We need to be above board. And so I think what you'll see in our prosecutions and from our law enforcement agencies here in Pinal County, I can't speak to the other ones, but we ensure that we are following due process rights, people's due process rights, and we are following the law always. I know I saw another one. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the resource that you'll be getting, are you going to be reassigning people already within Pinal County to be working on this? Will you be getting resources to have people through DHS come in? I mean, how is the staffing going to work on that?
A little bit of both. So we will receive, the president has signed an executive order to ensure that resources come down to communities who do sign on to the 287G agreement. So we will be receiving financial resources to conduct some hiring, but in addition, we will also be my office will be part of some of those task forces for that enforcement side. And we're doing that for multiple reasons. I think one of the main reasons is we need to know what's happening in our community. if our officers and our people don't understand what's happening in our community, where the drugs are flowing, where the trafficking is occurring, where the accidents are occurring, then I think we're being negligent in protecting our community. And so we use that as our eyes and ears, or for lack of a better term, boots on the ground, to see what's actually happening, where it's happening, so that we can shift resources to those areas. We also have intelligence agents that work for me. So we know which areas of the community are problematic, where those crimes are occurring. And so part of our enforcement mechanism of joining those task forces is to better understand where the crimes are occurring.
Are you able to give us some more numbers, like specifics on the amount of resources? I mean, how much money will it be? How many cars would you get? How many staff? Like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we can provide that information to you later. We've signed a memorandum of understanding with the federal government with some of those things, but all of those numbers are not solidified yet. What we really wanted to talk to today was announcing that strategic partnership with ICE. We 100% support them. Unfortunately, not a lot of some other politicians in Arizona don't. We certainly do. Because we want to make sure that the community knows what we're doing and that we will be enforcing the law. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, can you go into more details to like what other kind of operations? Like, is it going to be going after just criminals undocumented, or just
No.
specific?
So what we're looking for specifically are violent crimes, the crimes that I mentioned: human trafficking, drug trafficking, human smuggling, domestic violence, and crimes against children. That's the focus of our office, because we believe that it's a very small percentage of the population are committing the most violent, dangerous, egregious crimes. And those are the crimes that we're going after. That's going to be the target of those particular task forces. Yes, sir.
So does Attorney General Mays know about your initiative, and if so, what is her response?
I have no idea, and I don't care. We're the top law enforcement officer in Pinal County. We enforce the law in Pinal County. The Attorney General has no jurisdiction over what we do here. Yes.
You mentioned Congresswoman Ansari.
Yep.
She's toured this was originally going to be held at the Eula Detention Center.
Yeah.
She's toured the facility 3 separate times, I think. All of it has been very critical of conditions in the facility. How do you respond to conditions when she makes claims like that? And what do you say when she says that many of the detainees in there have no criminal record?
Well, she's wrong. She doesn't understand the law. A person being in the country illegally is a crime. It's a misdemeanor, and very often what we find is that there are other crimes attached to those individuals. So we don't believe that she's telling the truth. And this goes back to my comment earlier, is we see a lot of sensationalism in the media from some of our elected officials, and what they're saying is oftentimes not true. What we saw last weekend with Representative Grijalva, we believe that she did not tell the truth. Because there was a multi-year operation with some very dangerous individuals committing fraudulent crimes, violent crimes that were caught in that particular operation. And so what we're hearing from these representatives is not true. We're here to stand on the other side and tell you exactly what's going on, and to actually get to the truth. Yes.
Isn't the use of the word belief there kind of a cause of concern on its own? Shouldn't you know for sure that people in these detention centers, if they're part of this violent criminal category or not?
I guess I don't understand your question.
You mentioned I don't believe what Ansari says talking about people in the detention center, and I just
Sure.
think the word belief there is kind of an anomaly, right?
It's not, and here's the reason why I use that word specifically is I don't know specifically the individuals that Representative Ansari was discussing. I don't know specifically the particular individuals, what cells they were in, what the conditions were like. So I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to make things up like the representative has done, and so I won't be doing that. But I do know that the federal detention facilities have standard operating procedures. They have certain standards of care that they follow, just like we do here in our jails and our prisons right across the street. And I'm sure those detention facilities also follow the same rules. Yes.
Point of clarification, did your office reach out to ICE, or did the Forbes reach out to Pinal?
We reached out to ICE. Yep.
Are you the first in the state of Arizona to do this?
I believe so. Yes.
So, just to clarify, this is a new to
This is new. Correct. My office just signed on. Yep.
Do you worry about having the staffing in order to do this particular work?
No. So no on multiple fronts. No, because we will be receiving additional resources from the federal government. And no, because our participation is also not mandatory. If there's an operation that maybe we disagree with or something that we don't want to be a part of, it's not something that we're required to be a part of. We choose which task forces and which operations we'll be a part of and which ones we will not be. Like I said, the focus of my office will be on those violent crimes, crimes against children, human trafficking, and drug trafficking. Those are the ones we're interested in participating in, and that's the reason why we signed on to this agreement. Yes? We've started the operation already. And regarding the funds, we're hoping to get a better understanding of that here in the next few weeks.
Can you kind of describe the differences in immigration enforcement from the previous administration to the current administration?
You're talking about for the county attorney's office?
The county attorney's office and sheriff's office.
I do know that this is something that hasn't been done before. The prior administration, I don't believe, was interested in handling these types of cases. But the way I look at these issues, and I believe the reason why I was elected and put into this office, is we're trying to make our community safe. And from immigration, we see so many other types of crimes, as the one I've mentioned. We also had another one the other day of an individual driving 123 miles an hour with 2 illegal immigrants in the back of his vehicle and ran into a palm tree, creating extremely dangerous situations, not only for the people of our community, but for those undocumented immigrants, and of course himself. And so we're seeing a lot of this. We're seeing a lot of crime spring from the immigration issue. And so the way I look at it is we need to go attack the source, not just the symptoms. And we believe the source is related to these issues regarding immigration. Yes?
I know that I think you said before, but the sheriff's office has been a part of the program for many years.
The sheriff's office has been part of the 287G jail program for a number of years.
Okay. And now that you're signing on in a different way,
correct.
How exactly are you going to be working with the sheriff's office, given that you're on to the 287 program together? How does that work?
So the sheriff has their own 287G agreement. That's their jail agreement. And if a person is undocumented and has committed felony offenses, then those people are handed over to ICE. That's a separate program. The program that my office is now a part of will be that the enforcement program, that task force. So if there is a task force related to finding people who have committed crimes against children, violent crimes, drug trafficking, then members of my office and my investigators will be participating in that program. That's the difference. Yes?
Can you go into a little bit about the training that these officers go through?
Yeah, so there's first of all of my investigators are fully post-certified. Most of them are retired, so they have 20 plus years of experience in law enforcement. But regarding the agreement with ICE, it's a 40-hour program that they go through to understand immigration law. And but we want to have more exacting standards because I believe that the best way to learn is to actually do. And so we're having my investigators go do ride-alongs with our ICE partners so that they can learn and understand immigration law, to me, at a much deeper level, more than just something you would see online. Yes?
If the county sheriff's office is already doing this, what's the advantage to having your investigators, and how many investigators are there that will be trained up on this, and what's the advantage of participating?
Yeah, we have 10 investigators, and the advantage is the enforcement piece, is that we can go out into the community and understand exactly what's happening in the community. We can actually participate in some of these task forces and provide resources of my office. As I mentioned, the investigators of my office are extremely experienced. They understand our local community. Oftentimes, while we love our ICE partners, some of them come from out of state and are not necessarily connected with our community. My investigators have been part of this community for multiple decades, so they understand where some of those hot spots are. They understand some of the nuances of Pinal County.
And will they only be using those the skills and the partnership during task force, or if they're in the course of an investigation and they have reasonable suspicion, will they also be enforcing that just during the normal course of their previous duties?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both, but the main focus will be on the task forces.
Do you see that having any impact as far as trust and people being able to wanting to talk to your investigators?
I don't.
Why not?
Because we've heard from a lot of people of our community that they're happy to have ICE agents in our community to try to get rid of some of the criminal element in our community. They believe that this has been a blight in Arizona for a number of years, and it's about time we get rid of it. Yes.
We hear from law enforcement agencies all the time about how underfunded you are, saying you don't have enough resources
Correct.
to be able to address even just the crimes that you're being brought to you, much less ones that aren't even reported.
Yep.
I mean, obviously you'll be getting resources for this and you will have more people coming in, but will this not take away some of the attention, even just like in terms of the amount of time we're talking about dealing with some of these issues, taking away from more local issues that might be undercover?
No, and I think it's just like any new administration or any administration generally, you have different focuses. And our focus is on protecting our community. And so that's our intention, is to go after those violent offenders, and that's where our focus is going to be. And part of this ICE agreement is to do that. So we don't believe it will take away our focus at all. Yes?
You mentioned someone who you arrested recently who was hiding in a sanctuary city.
Yes.
What sanctuary city was that?
Denver.
You arrested him here?
No, we arrested him in Denver. Yeah. He committed the murder here, and he's up on first degree murder charges here. Yes. And if you want more information on that, we can give it to you. Yes. No, they can't. Yep.
Is there any concern with the Hispanic community, like calling?
I missed that.
Is there any concern or that the Hispanic, in fact, like the Hispanic community, as far as like calling 911, for help, anything like that?
No. We've had many members of the Hispanic community, and I think people think that it's just the Hispanic community affected. It's not. We see people from all over the world here in Pinal County that are here illegally. So it's not just the Hispanic community, but I will say we have a lot of support from all our communities here in Pinal County for this type of program. Yes.
I just want to clarify. So your investigators in your office will be able to now make arrests of these illegal or undocumented.
Correct. Yes. Anything else? Yeah.
We've seen many examples of ICE, DHS agents detaining people who are not here do not have a history of violent crimes, and in many cases are even here legally, have a green card, have no reason to be detained at all. How can you promise that's not going to happen in this community to members of your own community?
Because with a task force model, it's not something that we go out there and willy-nilly arrest folks. We have very targeted folks and individuals that we're going after, people who are committing and have committed heinous crimes in our community. That's going to be the focus of our office, and that's how we're going to ensure that something like that doesn't occur. Anything else? All right, thank you all very much.